So, welcome everyone to this TLU Tech Talk with Shobhit and Yogesh. We're going to go through who are going to present on advanced reporting tips and tricks with ORD. Before I hand over to Yogesh and Shobhit, I'm just going to go through a short introduction. So Shobhit is a senior engineering manager for intelligence products. He brings with him 18 years of experience in product development and successful regulatory and strategic product delivery. His expertise spans multiple technical domains, with a focus on designing high-performance, scalable software solutions. And in the STL capacity, he's responsible for driving the Opus reports and dashboards product delivery. And Yogesh is a software engineer who contributes to the Opus Reports and Dashboards product, working across design, implementation, and testing with a strong focus on performance, scalability, and maintainability. He collaborates closely with product and engineering teams to ensure what we build aligns with both the customer needs and any long-term platform goals. As always, our classes are public, so we just ask you not to engage in any discussions about pricing, deal making, selling, promoting, or any other activities which could be seen as anti-competitive. And moving on to the next slide, our class guidelines again, because our classes are public and we do have a limited time frame for this tech talk. We just ask you not to engage in any company specific examples. Having said that, we do encourage any questions, and if you do have any company specific examples you'd like to raise, please feel free to email us at tracinc at tracinc.com. I'm going to ask a couple of questions at the end of the session, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions at the end or email after this presentation. So thank you, Yogesh and Shobhit. I'm just going to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Laura. So before we start with the topic of today's topic of advanced reporting and tips and tricks, just a brief recap or overview of reports and dashboards. Opus reports and dashboards are basically constitute of three fundamental concepts: query object reports and dashboards. Reports build over query objects, dashboard builds over report. These are fundamentally three foundational constructs, cornerstones, where Opus reports dashboards are built on. And so your applications data is flowing through Opus systems. You want to create reports, you want to create visualization. There are different ways. I think we have a different session on how to create reports and dashboards. Today's topic, we are going to focus on advanced reporting tips and tricks, where you will get an idea how the holistic picture can be built, how the different reporting needs can be solved through these features. So with that, I'll hand over to Yogesh for the first feature demonstration.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, hello everyone. I'll give a short intro of what we are going to see today. So we are going to talk about these four features. First is limit rows. Then we are going to talk about drill down, percentage distribution, and column mapper. We'll talk in detail about each of these features. And at the end, I'll show a short demo of the feature, playing a video that how we can use this feature in the reports. So first start with the limit rows. So using limit rows, we can filter the number of rows within each leaf row group. And this allows users more control over the groups. And it can be used with the sorting to create reports focused on latest transaction, highest quantity. So we can create those type of reports using sorting and applying the limit rows. Here, I have a problem statement. So Ciara wants to generate a month-end inventory report, and she wants to focus on product activity and track the closing stock levels at the month end. So for that, we can use the limit rows, and I have a video showing about the feature. So let me play the video. This is a Opus report screen, and after you load the report, you select the report criteria. You will see this screen. And here I have a month-end inventory report, and you will find the new feature in the filter rows tool panel. named as limit rows. By default, it will be disabled. So in this report, I have a month column and a product column. I have applied grouping on the month column and a product column to see the data each month by product. If I expand the data of October month, I see the products for the October month. And if I expand for January, I see. Then additionally, I have applied aggregation on the quantity column to see the quantity of each product at month level. And this shows me the sum of the quantity at each product. So let me explain what happens inside each of the product. So for one product, you can see there are 14 different rows present in the report. And each row is a different transaction. And that product can have multiple transactions. And when we apply aggregation on the quantity column, we can see that aggregation shows the sum of all the transactions inside that product. But we are interested in the month-end inventory. We want to see the latest transaction. So that's why we can use the limit rows feature here. First, I will sort the data by applying sorting on the last updated date time column. I will sort the data in descending order. That way, I will get the latest transaction at the top for each group level. So when I apply sorting in descending order, you can see that the latest transaction is at top because it was created at the latest time. Then the other transaction follows. Then after sorting the table, now we can use this feature to limit the rows for each group. Here. And I enable this feature. Once I enable this feature, it will automatically apply at the client side level. There won't be any loading time as it is getting applied on the client side. And you can see 3 rows are shown in this each report as the 3 value was pre-decided in the text box. Then we are interested in the latest transaction. So I will change that to 1. And that way we can see the latest transaction for that product. And this applies for all the product as the product is the leaf group present here. And when we apply this limit rows, it filters out the data and then the sum of quantity column will represent the updated values which are shown. And that way we can find out the month-end inventory per month per product. And then we can save this report. And once we save this report, this configuration gets saved. And when you reload this report, you will be able to see this same configuration again. And then you can use this report on the dashboard to visualize the month-end inventory track. We have an example later where I have used this exactly similar report in the dashboard. We can talk about that in the next example. So this was about the limit rows feature. I will move on to the next feature, holistic drill down. So drill down allows user to focus on a specific subset of data, navigating from dashboards to reports, and then further navigate from report to a particular business objects view edit page to see the data or update that individual record. This features also enables layered analysis experience, and here we can progressively go into the detailed actionable data for deeper investigation. For the problem statement I have here, Sierra wants to review a month-wise inventory report, and she has a dashboard where she has created month-wise inventory report and some charts on it. And she wants to see the data for a specific month, focus on a specific month. So for that, we can start with opening the dashboard. Then we can drill down on the report to see the particular section of the chart or the entire report. And from the report, if you want to further drill down to see the product activity page, then we can go to that report. So I'll show a video explaining this same use case. Here, I have an inventory tracking month dashboard, and it has 2 reports, inventory percentage report and month-end inventory report showing the data of the inventory per month. Okay. Let me play the video again. Yeah. And After the name of the report, you will find a new icon, navigation icon named as go to the report. After clicking on that icon, it will open up a report, this particular inventory percentage report, in a new Opus tab, and you will see the data in a tabular format, which is responsible for this report. If you want to drill down to a specific section of a chart, you can click, you can right click on that particular section of the chart and select this go to report option. Then it will again open up that same exactly report in a new Opus tab, but this time it will show the data only for that particular section. So that way you can focus on any particular section or anomalies that you want to focus on. Now let's see this behavior in action. I will open up this month-end inventory report in a new tab. First, I click on the go to report button, and this opens up that entire report in a new tab. And we can see the data of month-end inventory report. Further, here, if you want to apply any more filters and any more configuration of the grid to visualize the data, to track the data in more meaningful manner, we can perform that. And then let's focus on this one particular section of December month. I right click on this section and I click on go to report. Now it adds a new Opus tab to the UI, and we can see this new report opening up. But this time, rather than opening up an entire report, we see that we only see the data that was responsible for that section, which is the December data. And this is achieved using, and this is achieved using the filter that we can see, which gets applied at the grid level, so that user won't have to do any more additional configuration to see the data for that particular section. Yeah. Just to show the different behavior, I will open up this exact inventory percentage report, but this time I will click on the go to the report option rather than a particular section. And now the same report opens up in a new solution, but this time, instead of seeing the data for the December column, we see the data for all the columns, and then you can further navigate. So this is how you can basically come from a dashboard to a report. If a dashboard has multiple reports, and if you want to see any, basically if you want to focus on any particular section of the dashboard and see the detailed view of the data, what data was responsible for that basic anomaly, you can click on that option and click on the go to report option. It will open up a report with that particular section of data. Now, let's see if from here you want to go to that business object. You want to see the product activity which is responsible for this report. Then from the report, you can open up the leaf row and then right click. It will give you an option to open the particular business object in the target application solution. This inventory percentage report was created using product activity business object of Mint. That's why it is giving me an option to open this in Mint option. Then if I click on this particular option, this Alfred 10 data, then it adds a new tab, Opus tab, but this time it goes outside of the ORD solution and it opens up the target application solution. This time it is Mint, and we see the product activity and we see the business object which was responsible for that record. And here I can see the Alfred data, and if I check the on-hand quantity, it is 90. So this particular report, which was showing the on-hand quantity as 90, we can go to that particular report and we can see any other requirements, or we can update that report from the report side. So by using drill down, I'll give a short summary. We can go from a report dashboard view to a report view. And if you want to further focus on that one business object or some business object and go to the view edit page of that business object, we can travel outside of the ORD solution and go to the target application view edit page. So this was about the drill down feature. Now I will talk about the third feature, percentage distribution across nested group. So these features allows users to convert aggregated value into percentage distribution over nested groups. By using this, you can clearly do a comparison between different values, and it will be easier for pattern recognition, and you can create charts like inventory percentage report that we just saw in previous example, where you would be able to make better meaningful charts based on the percentage of data. The problem statement for this is Sierra wants to understand how inventory quantities are distributed across product within each sender. So for each sender, how the product quantities are distributed. For that, we will open up an inventory percentage report and group by on the sender and product quantity, and we will add an aggregation on quantity column. Then we will convert this aggregated quantity into percentage distribution using the new feature. And then we can save this report and use this report on the dashboard to show the percentage distribution for each product across products for each sender. Again, I have a video showing the feature in live action. Here, I have the same inventory percentage report, and I have a grouping applied on sender and product. So you can see I have 4 senders here, and then I have aggregation applied on quantity, a count aggregation applied on product, and a first aggregation applied on another column named as process status. If I expand any group, you will be able to see the product groups, and inside that product group, you will be able to see the different transaction for that product. And at the aggregation level, we can see the aggregated values of the quantity and product values. Now, instead of using this aggregated value, we want to see the percentage distribution of the basically percentage distribution of product for each particular sender. So we can click on this 3-dot menu, and it will open up a column header menu, and you will see an option named as show percentage distribution inside that header. And if you enable that toggle, it will change the aggregated value into percentage distribution. And this time you can see the Curanet pharmacies aggregated values got converted into percentage, and all the product share the percentage, and at the parent level, you will be able to see 100%, and inside that you can see the percentage distribution for different products. I'll apply the same for the product group, and this time instead of sum of quantity, earlier we had a sum of quantity basically previously here, and then that sum aggregated values got converted into percentage distribution. Now, instead of that, I have a count of product here, another column, and I can change this count aggregation value into a percentage distribution. I just open up the same header menu and I enable the toggle, and you can see the count values got converted into percentage distribution. And this is applicable across the columns. That way, for another sender also, I can expand that group and see the distribution of the aggregated values, in this case, quantity and product. Now, if you want to go back to our previous aggregated columns, we can open up the same menu and disable the option, and you will go back to the previous aggregated values. For the quantity, it was sum, and for the product, it was count. And same. Now, there are some prerequisites for this feature. You will need to, this feature needs some requirements on the grid, then you will be able to see. First one is we need the result of aggregated values to be numeric. Like here, for the sum of quantity and count of product, the aggregated values are numeric. The result is numeric, then we can perform the percentage aggregation. But for the process status, the result of aggregated value is in string. So if we open up the column header menu, we won't see the show percentage distribution option here, as we won't be able to calculate it. At the same time, we have another condition here. We need 2 groupings applied to show the distribution of the child group over the parent aggregated values. Here, if I remove the product group and I click on the same aggregated value, I don't see the show percentage value, as there is only 1 grouping applied. So the distribution cannot be performed over nested columns. So by this way, grid helps you. Basically, the report table helps you when you can apply the percentage distribution and see the data of nested column distributed across the parent. Yeah. So this was for the third feature. Then I have a last feature here, column mapper. And for the column mapper, this allows users to define the business relationship between columns to control how the execution data is flattened. By mapping the related columns, we can ensure that the records are aligned based on business context. And this feature also prevents the unnecessary row multiplication during data flattening, which ensures accurate aggregate data. I'll explain with example what do I mean by that. So for the problem statement, we have a problem statement here. Sierra wants to analyze the purchase order and shipment quantities from purchase order acknowledgement and wants to understand the fulfillment status for the specific purchase order. So we will open up a purchase order and purchase order acknowledgement shipment quantity report, and we will see the data for one particular purchase order acknowledgement. And then we will use and then I will explain in brief what are the current without column mapper, what happens, and how can we use the column mappers to get the accurate aggregate results. Here, I have a purchase order and purchase order acknowledgement shipment quantity report. The primary business object is purchase order and the secondary business object is purchase order acknowledgement. I'll have to explain in brief about the columns, about the report of the report to explain the what happens without column mapper and how we can use the column mapper to basically get the accurate results. So first I have a purchase order column on which I have applied grouping on the purchase order column to group all the columns for that purchase order, basically all the data of that purchase order across this column. Then I have purchase order quantity, PO acknowledgement quantity, shipment quantity, and cancel quantity. And I have an aggregation of sum applied for these 4 columns. The last 3 columns comes from the acknowledgement, whereas the first purchase order quantity column that comes from purchase order. Then I have some extra columns, transaction identifier type and transaction identifier value from purchase order, and same 2 columns from purchase order acknowledgement, reference transaction identifier type and transaction identifier value. And at last, I have an item column from purchase order acknowledgement. So if I select all these columns and execute the report and I expand the group, you can see there are 8 rows present for this purchase order. And why we are seeing these 8 rows is the basically problem statement. So I'll explain here. So in the transaction identifier value columns of the purchase order, you can see 4 rows are present for 2 different reference transaction identifier. That means that this PO has 2 reference, one for the purchase order and another for the customer contact, and their IDs can be seen in the adjacent column. And this each value is multiplied, is shown at 4 times. So why this value is shown at 4 times? We would be able to get the reason if we focus on the same columns on the acknowledgement level. So on the acknowledgement level, you can see for the first 4 reports, there are 4 different type of transaction reference for the acknowledgement: purchase order, supplier order, customer contact, and another supplier order with different ID. Now these 4 different type of transactions are referenced in the purchase order, and now the ORD does not have business context yet. And what it ends up doing, that it multiplies all the different type of transaction received in purchase order with all the different type of transaction received in acknowledgement, and we end up with 8 rows. That each transaction from purchase order get multiplied with each transaction for acknowledgement, and these 2 different transaction get multiplied with this 4, and we end up with this first 4 and this another 4 section at 8 rows. Now, what happens because of these 8 rows is, if we have an aggregation applied on quantity column here, then the quantity columns is also multiplied and the aggregated values are not correct anymore. So to solve this problem, we can use the column mapper feature, and it comes in the picture here, and we can solve this problem using column mapper by providing some business context to ORD. Here, if you open up the report criteria side panel, you will find a column mapper component newly added to the column section. And if I open up this dropdown, you will see all the selected columns that you had already selected in the column multi-pick list to show on the report. It will be available in the column mapper to select. and we can select a pair of columns to perform mapping, which will reduce this row multiplication. Let's talk about bit about how this component works. So we can click on this plus button to add a new set. We can click on the minus button to remove a pre-existing set. By using different set, we can give two different conditions for the grid. Here I will use, we have two different conditions that we can see later. Here I have, let me play this video. Here I am selecting reference transaction identifier from purchase order and reference transaction identifier from acknowledgement. And I have added this one condition. Then I can click on this plus button to get a new set, blank set. And here I can select another condition. Here I will select the purchase order from the purchase order number. Then transaction identifier value from PO, basically the second column of IDs. And to add a new column for this condition, instead of a pair, if you want multiple columns in a set, we can click on this plus button. It will add a new drop down and we can select the another column. And now the set has three different columns that it will compare between. These are two different sets. First one set will get applied and this second set has three different columns. And we can click on the plus button to add multiple columns. The multiple columns is useful if you have multiple secondary different objects or secondary and tertiary business object. And if you want to provide business context for multiple objects in one condition. Then we can click on the plus button to add a third condition and each mapping gets updated. Now, this component only works on top of user selection. We need the columns to be present in the report table to map the values. If you go ahead and remove any existing column, pre-selected column, then the column mapper component will update itself and the set containing that column will get removed, updated, because the column is no longer present on the grid. So let's select the transaction identifier column here and add the condition that we had. PO number from purchase order, transaction identifier value from purchase order, and transaction identifier value from purchase order acknowledgement. And after doing this, we click on the apply button and the execution starts. And this time when the data comes up, the grid has a business context and it gives you data based on what you selected in the column mapper. So it maps the reference transaction identifier with the reference transaction identifier of purchase order acknowledgement, and it maps the transaction identifier with the purchase order number. And that way we are able to get only one row, which was for the item Alfrey 10. And when we get one row, the aggregated values are automatically showing correct result for that one particular item. We have 100 PO quantity, 100 acknowledgement quantity, and the shipment quantity is 100. And there is no cancel quantity for this particular PO. So instead of 800, we can use this column mapper to give a business context for ORD, then the aggregated values, which would be much more accurate. And the same column mapper, you can open up the report criteria again to edit and make further changes in this component. And when you save the report, this configuration gets saved so that when you open up the report again or use the report on the dashboard, you will see the correct data. Yeah. So I'll explain in short what we can do using these features. So using these features, we can smartly focus on one particular data, move from high-level insights of dashboard to exactly the data where we can focus. And from the report also, we can move to the particular view edit page of the business object to focus or edit that particular business object. We can do a deeper and faster analysis. A drill down gives a much better understanding of trends, proportion, and anomalies. This, as we can focus on one particular section of the chart to see the data for that one particular section. Using the column mapper, we just saw that we can create much more accurate and meaningful results, and it will prevent the blind row multiplication if you provide the business context using the column mapper. And at the end, these all features are available in the author mode of the report table. So a user has end-to-end control to use this feature to create more meaningful reports. They can use these features together and create more meaningful report, and then use those same reports on the dashboard to give a better visualization of the charts. So that's all about these four newly added features. So with using these four features, you can create better reports which suits your use cases more accurately. Yeah. I will give the stage to Shobhit for questions.
Hi, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions if that's okay. Thank you so much, Yogesh.
Sure.
I guess I just wanted to understand, I mean, these features look great, and I just wondered with the new advanced features, will it take a lot of more time and effort to configure, or yeah, how will it work?
Not at all, actually. If you, as you saw on the recordings, it's all available in the user's hands at runtime. Limit rows, be it or be it column mapper. These are part of existing report table component and on the report criteria section. So it's as good as our no code paradigm where user can build and design at runtime then and there itself.
Great, thank you. And I guess if there is if help is required, is there help provided? Is there access to online documentation? Is there help in the project and with the implementation?
Yes, absolutely. We have ORD Help Center where these features are documented. So when this was released first in last year with 25.2, Opus 25.2 release, Help Center was created explaining in detail about these features.
Good. Okay, thank you. And I get just another question. I think this is more general question about ORD.
Mhm.
If a customer does have a particular use case or type of report they'd like to see to help visualize their data, can tracing
Mhm.
help with that, bring those reports to life and that visualization? And if so, who would be the best person to contact?
So for this, the TraceLink has a support team. Support and services will definitely help the customer needs. But then I would also like to bring attention towards marketplace catalog. So in ORD solution, we have two marketplace and company. So for marketplace catalog, TraceLink adds certain reports and dashboards. So user need not to feel or customers need not to feel a pressure of build from scratch start, and they can leverage our copy and new version feature where they can just download from marketplace catalog to the company catalog and start modifying from there too. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's really interesting to see these more features being added. And like I said to anyone, if you do have questions about this topic or ORD in general, please feel free to email Tracy university at tracing.com. Um, do either of you have any final comments to share?
I'm good. I'm excited to see what user build from this platform capability.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Thank you both. Thank you. And everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you.